Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be reading from the r/am I the asshole subreddit. So let's jump into it. My husband, 36-year-old male, and I, 28-year-old female, have been married for 5 years. We don't have kids. I love to cook. I cook almost every night and I enjoy it. My husband works long hours, so when he comes home, he just likes to relax and watch TV while eating whatever I've made. It's nice because he comes home to a hot meal without having to do anything. Lately, though, he's been making comments like, "Did you forget the salt?" Or "This would be better if it was spicier." And last week, he jokingly said my cooking was a chore to eat, and that really hurt my feelings. I asked him if he was serious, and he said it was a joke, but I wasn't taking it seriously. He told me to lighten up and stop getting upset over silly jokes, that I'm serious. I don't think it as funny to make jokes about the hard work that I put into making our family dinners. Yesterday was the last straw. I'd spent all day preparing a big pot of stew. It's one of my husband's favorites. I even went out and bought a new Dutch oven to make it in since I wanted it to look nice and taste good. When my husband came in to eat, he looked at the stew and then said, "Oh, what is this?" I told him it was the stew he loves, and he said, "No, I don't want to eat that." Then he got takeout. When I told my husband that I was done cooking until he apologized, he got angry and said that I was being childish and dramatic and that I couldn't take a joke. He left without eating and got takeout again. Now he is saying that I'm being manipulative and that I should let it go because it was just a joke. He says I shouldn't be so sensitive. He says I should suck it up because it's not that deep and it's just a little joke. Am I the asshole for refusing to cook for him after he insulted my cooking? Okay, so this one is pretty interesting. Obviously, your husband was out of line to say that your cooking is a chore to eat. That is definitely not okay, even if he thought it was a joke. Jokes are supposed to be funny, and that's not a funny thing to say. And it does sound like he has been picking at things with like, "Did you forget the salt?" or "It'd be better if it had more spice." So it kind of sounds like he is nitpicking things and making you feel bad for putting time and effort into making food. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly how he phrased those comments and if they were actually said in a joking manner, or if he was just genuinely trying to critique your cooking. But either way, it's still not okay to make your partner feel bad for putting effort into doing something that they enjoy. And it's also not okay to question their ability to cook. Like, "Oh, did you forget the salt?" It's basically questioning whether or not they're capable of cooking. If he's trying to be funny, he could just say something like, "This reminds me of that one time when we went to that restaurant and they forgot the salt. Remember that?" But instead, he's just saying, "Did you forget the salt?" Which is really passive aggressive and makes you feel like crap. However, you did say that this was a running joke that he's been doing, so maybe he did mean some of them to be jokes. But just because you're joking doesn't mean it's okay, especially if it's at someone else's expense and especially if it makes them feel bad. So yeah, I get why you're upset. And I do think that it was a little extreme to just completely stop cooking and refuse to make him dinner. I think if it was a one-off thing, it would be totally fine. And honestly, I think he deserves it. If he wants to make a joke like that, then he should expect that you might stop cooking for him for a little bit. However, he's saying that he hasn't eaten all day and he's getting takeout every day. So I do feel bad for him in that aspect. So I think the best thing you could do is sit him down and have a conversation about how these comments make you feel. Tell him that you understand if he thinks they're funny, but that they're actually really hurtful. And hopefully he'll be able to understand where you're coming from. I do think that if you continue to fight about this, it will end up blowing over into other aspects of your relationship. So you really need to talk about it and get it out in the open because otherwise it's gonna not continue to fester and build up. Like if you bring up how much you love him and he brings up how much he loves you, you're gonna not immediately shut down and not believe him because this whole cooking thing is gonna now be fresh in your mind. And that's not fair to you or him. So communication is really important here. You both need to come to an understanding and respect each other's feelings on the matter. If he apologizes and admits that he was wrong, then I think you should probably resume cooking because if you don't, then he's never going to change. He needs to see that there are consequences to his actions, and if there aren't any, then he's never going to learn. If he doesn't apologize, then you should continue not cooking and give him a bit of a break. Just let him order takeout for a few days and figure it out. Maybe he LL realized that he actually enjoys cooking, or maybe I'll miss your cooking and want to apologize. But going forward, I do think it's important that you two decide on boundaries when it comes to jokes. Some people just don't understand that certain topics aren't off limits. So you need to make it very clear that jokes about your cooking or insinuations about your cooking aren't funny and aren't okay. But I do think that if you continue to just refuse to cook, he's never going to change. People need to face the consequences of their actions in order to learn from them. Otherwise, it's just resentment and anger. However, I do think that if he apologizes, then you should absolutely forgive him and move past this. Don't hold grudges. If he apologizes and admits that he was wrong and that he won't do it again, then what are you holding on to? You need to learn to accept his apology and move on. Holding grudges isn't healthy and it's only going to hurt you in the long run. Yeah, that is the end of the story. And I'm curious, am I missing something? Because it almost seems like he's intentionally trying to make you feel bad for cooking. But then at the same time, he always gets takeout. So maybe he's trying to make you feel bad because he actually wants to go out and eat. Maybe he's just trying to convince you to order takeout with him. I don't know. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of AITA. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I truly appreciate when you do, and I will see you in the next Reddit story. Bye.